He gave me a choice between life and oblivion, and I begged him for oblivion. The only thing worse than the screaming was the silence that followed it. That's the first thing you learn here. The sound itself is awful, a raw, ragged tearing of a human soul. It claws its way out of the little room at the front, echoes off the sterile white walls of this place, and vibrates right through the cheap plastic of your chair. But then a door slams, somewhere deep inside, and the cutoff is so sudden, so absolute. It leaves a vacuum, and in that vacuum, all you can hear is the electric hum of the overhead lights and the frantic drumming of your own blood. "Zoya Petrova?" A voice crackled from a hidden speaker. It was flat, bored, like someone ordering a coffee. A woman a few rows ahead of me, her hair a nest of gray anxiety, flinched as if struck. She stood on trembling legs, her hand smoothing a dress that wasn't wrinkled. She walked the aisle like it was a gangplank. Every head in the auditorium, hundreds of us, watched her go. We were all statues with breathing lungs. She reached the door, paused, then disappeared inside. We all held our breath, a collective, silent prayer. It didn't take long. "No, please, God, not there. Not again." Her voice was thin and reedy at first. Then it shredded into a full-throated shriek. A desperate, pleading wail that promised horrors I couldn't imagine. Then, thump. The silence rushed back in. Another one gone. I didn't know how long I'd been here. Hours? Years? There were no windows, no clocks, just the endless rows of seats, the cold white floor, and the two doors. One at the back where new people shuffled in, their faces blank with the same confusion as mine, and the one at the front, the one that ate people. I couldn't remember my life before this room. It was a black hole in my head, a phantom limb of a memory. The only thing I knew for sure was a deep, instinctual certainty that wherever I'd come from, it was bad. So bad that this sterile purgatory felt like an improvement. But that feeling was fading with every scream. The man sitting next to me shifted. He was maybe my age, lanky, with dark circles under his eyes that looked painted on. He hadn't spoken the entire time he'd been beside me. He just stared at the door, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. "Matteo," the intercom droned, emotionless. He didn't move. He just made a small sound in the back of his throat, a choked little whimper. The name hung in the air, a death sentence. He looked at me, and his eyes were wide, pleading. Not for help, I don't think. He knew no one could help him. He was pleading for it to not be real. I had nothing to offer him. I just stared back, my own emptiness a mirror of his terror. He stood, so slowly. Each movement was a negotiation with gravity. He walked that long aisle, his feet scuffing the linoleum, the only sound in the dead quiet room. He put his hand on the doorknob and hesitated for a full 10 seconds. Then he was gone. This time, we waited. The silence stretched, becoming taut and thin. Maybe he was one of the quiet ones. Maybe his fate was different. I found myself leaning forward, a sick flicker of hope in my gut. Then it started. It wasn't a scream. It was a guttural roar of pure animal terror, a sound of a man being unmade. The door at the front flew open, and a hand, just a hand, shot out, scrabbling for the frame. Matteo's hand. It was white-knuckled, the fingers digging into the wood. "Fuck! No, let me go!" He howled, his voice distorted. Something was pulling him. From inside the door, a patch of the darkness seemed to thicken, to coalesce. It wasn't a creature. It was just wrong. The absence of light became a physical force. It pulled, and Matteo's arm was slammed against the doorframe with a wet, cracking sound that made my stomach heave. He screamed again, a high, thin note of agony this time. His fingers slipped, one by one. The darkness yanked him back so hard his body made a hollow impact against something inside. The door swung shut on its own. And then, deep within, thump. Silence. I put my head in my hands, but the image of his hand, the sound of his bones, it was burned onto the inside of my eyelids. What is this place? Where are they going? The questions were a frantic, useless loop in my hollowed-out skull. I was afraid, but it was a distant, cold fear. An intellectual understanding that I should be panicking, but the machinery to do so was broken. More names were called, more screams, more thumps. They all blurred into a monotonous symphony of dread. I stopped watching. I just stared at the floor, tracing the patterns in the linoleum, trying to find a single thought that wasn't about that door. Kian. The voice spoke my name. My name. I knew it was my name. The sound of it hit me like a punch to the chest, knocking the air from my lungs. The distant, cold fear suddenly became a hot, roaring fire. It surged up my throat, choking me. My turn. I don't remember standing. I don't remember walking. The faces in the rows were just smudges of color. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. My whole world narrowed to a single point, the plain wooden door at the end of the aisle. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob. It was cold. So cold. I opened it and stepped through. The hallway was long and impossibly dark. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing me in. Far ahead, a single square of the same sterile white light beckoned. There was no sound but the frantic beat of my own heart. I walked towards the light. My footsteps didn't echo. They were just swallowed by the oppressive black. The room at the end was small, a perfect cube of white walls, white floor, white ceiling. Standing in the center was a man. He wore a simple, perfectly pressed black suit. His face was a placid, emotionless mask. He wasn't looking at me, but I knew he saw me. His stillness was profound, inhuman. I stopped a few feet from him, my body rigid. I wanted to scream questions at him, but my tongue was a lead weight in my mouth. He spoke, and his voice was the same flat tone as the intercom. No inflection, no life. Do you know where you are? I managed to shake up my head. Do you know who you are? He asked. The question was a key in a lock I didn't know existed. Kian, I whispered, the name feeling alien on my tongue. And then it happened. It wasn't a memory. It was a detonation. A lifetime, my lifetime, exploded behind my eyes. Not a highlight reel, but every single ugly, shameful, cruel second of it. The casual lie that ruined a friend. The deliberate cruelty to someone who loved me. The opportunities to be kind I spat on. The small evils, the petty hatreds, the towering selfishness. It was all there. A festering, rotten pile of a life. A life so wretched that oblivion would be a kindness. I wasn't just a man, I was a mistake. I collapsed to my knees, gasping, the weight of who I was crushing me. I finally understood. This wasn't a waiting room. It was a processing center. And I knew, I fucking knew, where I had come from. The man in the suit looked down at me, his expression unchanged. Last question, he said. And then he smiled. It wasn't a human expression. His lips peeled back from his teeth, stretching too far, the corners of his mouth hooking up towards his eyes in a grotesque parody of joy. It was a smile of pure cosmic malice. Ready to try again? To my right, a door I hadn't seen before began to glow, its outline burning into the white wall. I started to scream, a pathetic, sobbing plea. Please, no, don't send me back, just end it. Please, I'm begging you. His smile widened. No one gets to quit, he said, the voice now laced with a chilling amusement. You just get to do it over and over, until you get it right. An invisible force seized me, yanking me off the floor, dragging me toward the glowing door. I fought, I thrashed, I pleaded with a thing that had no mercy. Not again. I can't do it. I didn't see a new world. I saw my mother's face, crying. I saw the playground where I first learned to be cruel. I saw 1,000 moments of failure and pain, all waiting for me, fresh and new. I was being poured back into the nightmare. Then the door slammed behind me,